Everybody's here in roll call quickly. Cindy?
Hi, good evening.
Darren?
Hello.
Thanks. Elizabeth?
Hello.
Elise?
Hi, everybody.
Harrison?
Good afternoon.
John?
I'm here.
Josh?
Here.
And Shailene is now here. Right, Shailene?
Yep, sorry, I'm here.
And did I miss anybody?
James is
Other
not
than Catherine, but... And James is on?
No.
No.
I also just sent Rose the link, so she might be joining us momentarily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's funny that sometimes I accept that it goes into my calendar and it says join here, but it doesn't have like a link that actually you click on and you jump to it. So it seems weird, but if I leave it in the invite and I don't accept it, like I just leave it in the mail, then it works. So it's weird. And I just go on to Google Meet then, and it'll say it there. So, and it's easy to get on. So, but I just learned that after 2.5 years or whatever. So, takes a while.
Okay, I'm looking for. Oops, City's having trouble getting in. Yes.
So, give her a minute.
Yeah, I'm just sending the link to Sydney as well.
Okay. Oh, Cindy was in and then dropped out?
No, I'm here. Sydney, I think.
Okay,
Sydney
good.
is Sydney Gross is the heritage planning student.
Oh, right.
David's not
I
here
think
right now.
she's coming in place of.
And Rose is here now.
And Sydney's here. Excellent.
Sydney. Okay, we just did roll call. So Rose, you are here now, so thanks. How are you?
Good, thanks. Sorry about that. I couldn't find the link. I had trouble getting in when I did.
No problem. Well, I was just saying that I have trouble getting on the link if it's actually I've accepted and it's in my calendar. Like the link, it says it, but it isn't a link that you can click on. And so I go to just Google Meet and bingo. That's sitting there and I click on it and it's easy. But like I said, it took me 2 years to figure that out. So this is only your third meeting. So anyway, welcome and thanks for everybody joining us. And I'll do the land acknowledgement. The Edmonton Historical Board acknowledges the traditional land on which we reside is in Treaty 6 territory. We'd like to thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Niawak or the Cree, the Dene, the Anishinaabe or the Saulteaux, the Iska-Nakota or the Nakota Sioux, the Niitsitapi or the Blackfoot, and the Métis Region 4 people. We acknowledge this as the home of one of the largest communities of Inuit south of the 60th parallel. It's a welcoming place and a gathering place for all peoples who come from around the world to share Edmonton as a home. And just for your information, I live right across from the legislature grounds, and the park that is part of, you'd think it is just part of the legislature, which is just to the east of the legislature building. They have been doing some work, and I haven't seen any publicity on it, but it's really quite cool. It's a circle of stones, and then it talks, and it's got a great plaque on residential schools, and it actually has the quote from John A. Macdonald, the quote that probably all of us have heard about why the residential schools and his thinking about it, which is not very nice in today's words, that's for sure. And the plaque actually shows, it's a map of Alberta, and it shows every residential school. So, I mean, I've told my kids and tons of people that when I went to school, from whatever 1963 into the to the late 70s, I never heard of a residential school. I didn't know what they were until just a few years ago. So I'm really glad that this is up and that people will be educated from young to old. So it's really quite cool. They've got an incredible statue there too. Or a monument. It's encased in something, but it looks like a beautiful bear sculpture, but I'm not actually sure on that. But when it opens, I hope that you guys can come down and take a look at it. Like I said, it's just the park adjacent to the legislature grounds, to right across the street from the legislature building. So it's pretty neat. Anyway, on to the historical board meeting. I'd like to get an approval of the agenda. Could we have a motion for that?
I'll move that.
Harrison, and do we have anybody that does not agree with that? I doubt it. So it's passed. And now the consent agenda, which is our last minutes from June 28th. Could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? John, and do we have anybody objecting to that? Not objecting. We don't need a second. I did the second for the first couple of meetings, then I was told I don't need a second. So just anybody that, if we get everybody in agreement, which I think we have, it's passed. So thank you. And on to my report, which is short. We wanted to talk about the budget. And did everybody see the budget, Catherine, or?
There's a link in the agenda. You want to pull it up?
Okay, perfect.
You'll note that there's a slight decrease in the budgeted amount for this year compared to last year.
Yeah, it looked like about was it 5,000?
Yeah, a little bit of retrenchment. You haven't spent it yet. You still have almost 12,500 yet to allocate, or to spend if you want to, or reallocate if you don't want to. Where it is.
And the cost of the plaque ceremony, that came out of this year's budget, correct?
Oh, does that still have to go in there? That would be under the historic plaques.
Yes.
So some of it is the venue rental is in there, the caterer is in there, the insurance is in there. The thing that's not in there is the actual installation.
And you have 10,000 budgeted for the installation, looks like, right?
There is a budget for, but it's not expensed yet.
And for anybody that knows, does that seem okay? 10,000 for the installation of does that seem reasonable?
Oh yeah, I would spend more than that.
Yeah. I saw one of the installations. It's of the Johnny Lang or John Lang Apartments that they put up the new podium for it. It looks great.
Okay.
That's the only one that I've seen, but anyway, so is there anybody that have questions on the budget? I looked it over. I don't, but I don't have a lot of experience with it, but just comparing it to last year's and so forth, that seems okay to me.
And Catherine, any unspent budget, it doesn't carry over, right? We just kind of lose that money. It goes back into the general. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, in fact, if we go over, I'm not sure when we're going to start the installations. I've already ordered new pedestals. which is going to cost about $6,000. So when they actually start, and I haven't had a bill yet from Acraft for the actual production of those plaques. Acraft is in a bit of disarray right now. A lot of the it's a family organization, and a lot of the family members died this year. So we're having trouble contacting them to figure out what's going on. So I haven't paid for the plaques actually yet. And there's 2 that need to be fixed before we close this off for this year. So if we go over, the city will absorb it, and I think that will cause an increase in the budgets because we didn't spend 18,000 of last year's budget. So
That's why it dropped probably.
yeah. So I suspect if we go over, the city will cover it, but and it may cause an increase last year. It's just there was some budget tightening this year.
What's the company that makes the plaques called?
Acraft.
Acraft. Okay.
I suspect they will not be our vendor next year.
Yeah.
And we'll our insurers. They seem to be falling apart right now. So yes, Rose.
I was just curious what the process was, is if we wanted to, for the website, investigate some new technologies, is there a way of doing that, you know, like when would we submit and do that kind of stuff?
What in terms of changing like redoing the website altogether, or just
well, some thoughts occurred to me that there are some new technologies out there that might work really, really well. And so if it's a year's process to get any sort of consideration or budget, is there a process? Is there something that we can do to even just consider it?
In terms of we'd have to get a quote from the vendor about how much whatever you want to introduce is, or if we're going for a full new provider of the website, that would be a longer procurement process because we'd have to do an RFP and then we'd have to send it out to website people. So yeah, it could be a longer process in terms of what exactly you're looking for. Are you thinking of mapping or?
Well, there's so many other different things out there because I did work with a software company for 6 years. And so I'm just wondering, like, I'm not asking for anything now. I'm just asking what the process is because there's everything from mapping to you can put those codes next to the plaque that can link to a deeper story. There's all kinds of things you can, maybe we could even link like Edmonton if they have bigger funds. But I'm just sort of wondering what the process is, not that wait another year and we'll actually take a year to do, you know. But that's all I'm asking is what the process is.
Yeah, so if we decide to stay with the current provider and request, I think the website team would have to meet and kind of figure out what they want to ask for. And see whether our current provider can actually provide those things, and then give us a quote on what that is, and then we would then proceed with that. So that would be an order process.
Who's the website team?
Yeah, but we'd have to decide what it is that you really would like, and then figure out whether you can do it. So that's still 2 to 3 months out before we can get a response back from that vendor. If you can't provide those things and you still want to go ahead with them, then we're looking at a longer process, which is probably 6 months to a year to find a new vendor who can do the things that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you said website team, who is that?
I think it's invested under the website budget is under the Historic Plaques Committee.
Okay.
So Rose is on that committee. If you want to raise that at the next committee meeting.
Yeah, we're going to meet on the 6th, right, Elizabeth?
6th, yes, on the 6th. I think
Yes.
What it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any other questions on the budget? If not, could we get a motion to approve the budget?
I don't think you need This is just to provide you with information and an update. The budget was approved previously.
Okay.
This is,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if it had been approved or not.
yeah, we approved these, I think, at the first board meeting of the year, or the last one.
it's usually the last one. We try and put it together for you in November.
So we approved it, but we didn't have the details of it.
Just because it's been a long time since we looked at it, I thought an update would be fine, just so you know what your position is.
Very helpful. I'm glad you did it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the Heritage Unit report, but I'm not sure if Sydney's got that or if David is still off, right? Gallivanting in Europe.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney Gross. I worked with the Heritage Unit as a graduate heritage planner back in 2021, so I recognize some of you, and it looks like there's some new faces. So I was hired to backfill Scott Ash. He's over with housing until I think April or May 2024. So I started almost exactly a month ago, and have been sort of just catching up and trying to keep up with everything while David's away. So my report will probably be a bit different than his usually is, but I've linked our report in the agenda, and all of the updates I've made. There are only a few updates kind of from page 3 onwards, but yeah, for the summer, we've kind of just been like maintaining operational capacity. So the graduate heritage planner for 2022-2023, Jared, his term wrapped up at the end of June. So we really appreciate all the work that he put into the heritage unit. For July, it was just David, and in August, it's just me with the support of our supervisor, Eric. So it's been fielding a lot of inquiries, doing some site visits. We've seen a number of demolition applications come across our desks. Also a lot of alteration and other development permit applications coming in. We have also received some interest in adding some buildings to the inventory. So we have site visits scheduled in Highlands, Inglewood, Westmount, and Strathcona over the next couple of weeks. So that's exciting for us. The Historic Resources Review Panel may have a slightly busier season ahead of them, which is exciting. We've also, this was a recommendation from the audit that was conducted last year. We've been conducting site visits of heritage resources that were designated quite a while ago, like decades ago, and we haven't really kept in touch with lately. So we've set a goal of 10 per year. We've reached out to all of those. They made a list of 10 before I got here, but they sent letters out and all 10 have responded. So by the end of this month, we're looking at having made site visits to all 10 of those, and we just take a look at the resource, you know, get a tour of it, talk with the owner, talk with them about our maintenance program. And so far it's been a pretty positive and productive undertaking. Outside of that, we're still just sort of sitting in on various meetings for, you know, city-owned resources. Things such as the Ironworks project is going along, the high-level bridge, there's a project going on there. Let's see what else. There's Hangar 14 has some work occurring. So yeah, it's just kind of, you know, a little bit business as usual. We sent out the notice of intention to designate for the Harlech Park pavilions. So that's the main pavilion, I think 2 or 3 picnic sites, and also a boat launch. And we're aiming to get that designated before the end of this year so the plaques can be installed with the rehabilitation of the park, and it'll be all ready when the park reopens again in 2025, 2026. And then the Boardwalk and the Revlon buildings, which are side by side downtown, they are going to be appearing before Executive Committee near the end of September, and will be before City Council on October 4th. So hopefully those two will be designated, in the next couple of months. And I think we probably mentioned in the last meeting in June that the McGrath Mansion was designated in mid-June, which is great. That's really it from me. If anybody has any questions, you can ask away.
Any questions for Sydney? Harrison?
Yeah, thanks, Sydney. And welcome back too. It's good to have you back. And the Heritage Unit needs all the support they can get right now. So
Yeah, it's pretty busy over here.
yeah, no doubt. That St. Teresa School I see on the report here and Dawson O'Connell buildings, those are the ones behind the seminary, right? On top of the hill there? Is that where those
I
are?
think so.
Okay.
That's one that I haven't discussed yet in my time back, but back in 2021, I know that we were in early talks with them. So
okay.
No movement on that in the past month and a bit, at the very least.
Okay. No, thank you.
Any other questions for Sydney? Thanks a lot, Sydney. Good report. We'll move on to Harrison and the naming committee if there's any update.
No, we haven't met over the summer, but we do have our next meeting next Tuesday on the 29th, and that's going to be the meeting where the Oliver Community League presents their potential renaming. So that'll be a big eventful meeting. And I'll definitely have an update on that for our next board meeting.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that'll be exciting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'm sure there will be a lot of publicity around it.
No, for sure. Yeah, I'll have a full report on, and I'm sure they might even reach out to the board in general. We'll see if there's any engagement that comes from that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to Catherine and the city archivist report, if you have any.
I don't actually have a report this one. I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay, we'll move on to committee reports and the HRRP. James didn't come, did he? Did he show up? Did anybody have any?
There was no meeting this month.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, thanks. And we'll move on to policy and planning committee, and I think Elise has a request for some conference support. So Elise, and is there any other report, I guess, from policy and planning?
No, we didn't have a meeting this month, so nothing from us right now. As far as the conference goes, I put in a presentation proposal for the National Trust Conference, which is at the end of October, and it was accepted. That's for the Policy and Planning Committee's work on creating resources to talk about climate change and heritage in Edmonton for the city and city council and citizens, but mostly city council. And so I was hoping that I could go and talk about that work. And yeah, they want us to come talk about it. So and ask for some financial assistance to get me there to present, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know really how to, we haven't done this before while I've been here. Do we actually vote on that, Catherine, or is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a budget line for it, so you basically have to approve that the expenditure can be up to that amount or up to any amount that Dane is appropriate.
Yeah. So this is the same conference that Shailene is going to?
I haven't received any email notification that I've been approved or I've received the bursary to attend the conference.
Yeah, so that's what you actually, I gave you a letter for this.
Yeah, and that one last year, Tuesday.
Now Elise, what you're asking for is different. and that's actually for financial support for that same conference, but that financial support would come from us, from the board budget, correct?
Yes, I missed the bursary. Yes. Yeah, and I hadn't been accepted to present yet, and so I didn't want to overshoot it, and yeah, it didn't line up.
So can we have a motion, or first of all, does anybody have any questions for Elise on it? This is the same conference that Harrison, you went to last year, right?
Yeah. Same conference, different venue, because it changes every year. There's the Toronto
Right.
last year. Yeah.
And this one's in Ottawa, correct?
That's right.
So any questions for Elise?
Can we just pay for a taxi from Edmonton to Ottawa instead?
I would appreciate if we didn't do that. Sounds long.
And what's the total amount? I don't have it in front of me.
There should be a link in the agenda as well, so you can see that.
Yeah, I can pull it up here. I can't remember the
1503, I think, 1500.
And we have 2,000 in that budget line. Is that correct, Catherine? Yeah, that's what I thought. So anyway, can we have someone, or do we ask Elise to give that motion, or do we have to have somebody else do it?
I think Lisa's in a position of conflict, so it should be someone else, hopefully from the committee. So maybe Charlene or someone else who sits on that committee can make that motion.
I guess just with the presentation, so it'll be a joint presentation with the between you and Charlene, right, Elise?
Actually, Shailene and I haven't talked about Shailene. I didn't know that you were for sure going, so we haven't chatted. I'm happy for it to be a joint presentation, though. I mean, I think that makes sense if we're both there. But Shailene, I think you had talked about being more kind of a supportive role. But
Yes, that's correct. Or more so the supportive role.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess I don't know, just maybe a report when you get back on. You can, maybe you can like read. You can do the presentation to us, but you present to them. Basically, it's just yeah.
And I think too,
And both of you should give a report on what you felt, you know, how the conference actually went. So that would be good.
Yeah, and I think too, I'll create the presentation beforehand and kind of circle it around too, so people can add or take away or give their feedback on it or whatever. That would be good too. It's more of a, this isn't my project, this is a board project, so obviously that input would be appreciated.
Okay, so can we have a motion from somebody from the Policy and Planning Committee? Do I see a hand? I heard a.
Well, Elizabeth has one.
Oh,
I'm not in the committee, but I thought I could also motion.
okay.
You could, absolutely. I would suggest up to amount, if you wanted to make it, just to give her a little bit of leeway for her taxi amounts.
So what's the motion, Elizabeth?
So make the motion to approve the budget up to $1,600.
And do we have any objection to that? I see nothing, so approved.
I'm sorry, it's too late. I was going to say, is that enough money to cover expenses?
Based on her budget, yes, it is.
Okay, it is. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, we're going to move on to Historic Plaques Committee. Elizabeth.
I was trying to check if we had a meeting after the big presentation, but it doesn't look like we did. So we had our.
Didn't we have one?
I didn't see it.
I thought we did, but anyway, after the plaque night, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we did, but I thought you did a fantastic job, and I thought I remembered me saying that. and all the work that Catherine did on it. And anyway, I thought it was a great night, and so nice to see it go so well for the first time for whatever, a couple of years. So anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. So it was a successful event. People showed up. We had people who are interested in getting their houses designated. So it was great to be able to connect them with David. We had some politicians show up, which was good. So we had Ann Stevenson show up, which was nice to see her in person, as well as Janice Irwin, who I think she got assigned to be like the housing portfolio. So in a way, it's part of like her opposition housing portfolio, or however the provincial government works. So I feel like designated housing is also kind of relevant to what she's doing. So for the event, I would definitely say this would be fun to run again next year. I don't know if this has to be like an every year thing or every 2 years. I think that would depend on the capacity of the committee and the budget, and how many plaques you need to present. But I think with this event, at least I now have like an outline of what kind of to expect and what the expectations are. So if I were to, I only have how many years on the board? So the next person who's stepping up after me, I feel confident that I can give them an outline of how we run the event, so they're not lost. Because I know it took a while for our committee to even figure out what an event would look like. So now we have the prototype, we can run with it. And if there's any of the other committees who want to have an event, I'm always happy to help. So yeah, it's very successful. The Plaques Committee also welcomed 2 new members. So that's Darren Wagner and Rose Herman. So thanks for joining. Yesterday, I had a mini meeting with those 2 in order to bring them, I guess, up to pace. So telling them about the terms of reference, as well as the expectations of what the Plaques Committee does. If anyone on the board would be interested in talking to me about that presentation, I'm also happy to meet up if you're curious about that. And we plan to have our next meeting on the 6th, where we will be looking at some of the plaque nominations. So lots of things are happening at this committee. And yeah, it's all going well.
It was great to see anyway. I think as I said, you did a great job. A lot of there was a lot of work to organize that. So, and Catherine, is it normal to have one every year, a plaque ceremony?
We have done in the past, yes. With Sonia,
like to see that. Just the fact that it's great. Advertising for the Edmonton Historical Board, and just to learn. And there was a lot of people there, and there could have been more. Like if we wanted to have more, we could definitely have more there. But I thought it was great that way. So I'd love to see it again. And like during that week of what is it called? The week, the historic
doors open.
I just thought it was perfect for that. And so anyway.
Oh, I forgot to mention one thing about that is I had made a rogue Instagram post advert image, and I posted that on Instagram, and it actually worked quite well in bringing in some people. So I think for future events or things, having a historical board Instagram something would actually be worthwhile.
Yeah, that's why I wanted the Edmonton Historical Board Instagram.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
I did see, I didn't post it, but I did see on a Facebook group that I once in a while look at, just somebody pointing out that event and saying it's great if you should go to this if you want to, or even thinking about designating your place. So that wasn't anybody from the board did that, but somebody did it for us.
And I thought David's presentation, just on the process and really, like it said, the taking away some of the myths of designation and so forth. So I thought it was really good. Anyway, thanks again, Elizabeth. Engagement committee. And I've got Shailene and Lisa's name. Do you have an update on the social media?
Yeah. I think I can't remember what we talked about last time, but we kind of are reaching out to, we were narrowing down who to kind of have on the panel to talk to us about social media in the community and how we can best get our mission out there. And so we narrowed it down to a couple of people, and we're just kind of trying to see what their schedules are like and schedule a meeting. And we were chatting about creating some questions, some thought-provoking questions for them and stuff to really foster that discussion. All really preliminary right now. Obviously, once we have something a little more concrete, we'll report back to everybody and give you a little more of a better report.
And Shailene had asked about touching base with the historian laureates.
Yes, I did reach out to them. I used the generic, I guess, email address that's like publicly available. I think it's like Edmonton Historical or Historian Laureates. And I haven't heard back from them.
They don't use that. That's entirely up to the individual, but I can give you a contact information for both of them if you'd like. I have
Yes, please.
email. Okay, I'll send that to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And now we'll move on to, I don't know if you've got an update for administrative support, Catherine.
Just to let you know that I have received permission to post for the coordinator position again. So that's going out hopefully this week. I will send out notices of that. It's going out internally, only to other cities because of some of the requirements for it. So, but I'll send that out to you so you know that what the posting says, in case you know anybody who already works for the city that is looking for a new job. You can send that on and see what we're looking for. I'm hoping it will not take long since it is an internal process, but I will let you know how we go with that. As I said, I did accept a quote from engineering group to create more of the pedestals that we use for installing the plaques. But until we have those, we can't actually start installing the plaques because we only have 2, and there's, I think, of the 13 plaques that we have, we already have 9 that want pedestals. We're short on pedestals. Until we get that, we won't be able to start the installation here. So
the pedestal that I saw at the John Lang apartment, that must have been an old one that was hanging around that they installed or something.
Yeah,
it really did look good though. So, and I know the fellow that neighbors of mine own the house, like people that live in my condo, and so they were really happy with it. They were very impressed with the plaque and the installation. So that's good.
Good.
Okay, we'll move on to roundtable. If there's anybody that wants to add anything, put your hand up. Harrison.
Catherine, that coordinator position, that's Sonia's replacement, right?
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Kristen has been working. She's basically she's a temporary replacement just to help cover that period when we were desperate for help during that event, and she's been doing other things over the summer because you guys have not generated much work. But
yeah,
she's about here, but I still need to have the new position.
Thank you.
John, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just had a couple of really minor questions. I was going to bring them to the plaques committee, but they're not really plaques things specifically. One sort of is, I saw a house for sale near Mill Creek, and I sort of seemed familiar. So it's a municipally designated place in 2017, but I was curious, there's no plaque in front of it. Realtor's ad didn't say anything about it being designated. It said the age, I think, but I things
I
had
can speak to that a bit.
Sure.
So that's the Mill Creek house, I think
That's
you're talking
right.
about. It was,
Yeah,
I think, 9934 88th Ave.
Yep.
It might have been removed from as a listing, but recently I couldn't find it. But it is designated. It was designated in 2017.
Right.
I think there has been some ongoing discussions about just the copywriting on the plaque, and that's why it hasn't yet been installed on that property, but it is designated. Yeah, so it is designated, doesn't have a plaque yet. I don't know if it will be installed before it's sold, or if we'll end up speaking with whoever buys it after the fact.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious about that, and the other thing I was wondering about, maybe Catherine knows it. Like when we're trying to help convince people that maybe they should consider putting their house, designating it, or whether they get it on the inventory. Do we have on the city? No, I don't think we have on our website. But does the city have anything that sort of gives a detailed way of like how you research your house for yourself to generate interest? City of Calgary does, and it's quite comprehensive, I think, and kind of neat.
We have a document on our website with the archives on how to do research. It's up resources, I think, or planning your visit. There's a. I'll send you the link for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Calgary one, the City of Calgary one?
I haven't. Maybe I have.
It goes. I think it goes quite a bit beyond the archives, just in terms of resources. And I think it's a do-it-yourself thing, whether or not you're interested in designating. But it has a lot of suggestions and links to places where you could find information about your place, including their archives. So I'll send you that link too. But if you send me the one, it'll save me finding it as well. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Good. About the Mill Creek house, there is a problem with that plaque because the owner, it wasn't a copyright thing, is they wanted a land acknowledgement on the plaque, which would have essentially not left any room for any of the usual stuff that goes on a plaque. So there's been a dispute about the wording, but I think it's fallen off the table. So maybe I need to talk to Elizabeth about getting it back on so we can figure out something that we can do. If the house is sold before, I mean, the plaque has been drafted and we've made several suggestions, but the owner still hasn't accepted, and she wants a full land acknowledgement. So, and it's very adamant about that. So that's why there's been some back and forth on that one, and the plaque is not even created yet because of the dispute. So
if we were to do that, that would presumably be a discussion whether we do it for all of them or something.
Exactly. Yes, yeah. that is one of the. So we need to figure out what that wording is to put at the beginning of all plaques going forward, and if we want to do that, right? So.
Yeah, the plaques committee was in contact with the Indigenous Relations Office to try to figure out the best way to go about that. But as far as I am aware, our IRO is quite busy. So that was part of the stalling of what to do about land acknowledgements, whether it's going to be words or perhaps, I don't know, a Treaty 6 visual. But that is definitely something that is on the plaques committee radar. I'm not too sure if we should reach out to the IRO again, or I think it did kind of get put on the back burner just because we're waiting for a response, but it's definitely something we can start up again.
Yeah, it does seem a bit complicated because there's an awful lot of plaques already out there, and it would be very expensive to start replacing if people decided they wanted to do that.
I don't think we'd be replacing plaques. We don't have the budget for that.
But I can't imagine somebody asking us to.
Yeah.
Well,
we do have.
When it comes up.
We've had another one added to it just recently because of defacement. So if we are going to replace a plaque, we would in future use the same kind of policy if we had a land acknowledgement on it, any future replacement because of damage or total inappropriateness of some of the older plaques. The things that we can, depending on how many are designated in a year, we have some spare room, we will add one or two for to replace.
Yeah. Yeah, I just meant we didn't have the budget to replace all of them at once. That would be quite an undertaking.
Sorry, I'm far away from the raise hand function in this room. I don't know if this is an option, but if a homeowner or a building owner was willing to just pay for the replacement of a plaque themselves, would we consider that? I don't know if anybody would be interested in paying for it, but would that be a simple?
And it might be tax receivable. We'd have to figure that one out.
Cool. I have no idea if there would be any interest, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Someone out there is like, yeah, I'll toss in a few $1,000s for a nice new plaque.
Anybody else with comments, questions, anything for Roundtable? Harrison?
With our historian laureates, I guess this is more for Catherine. Do we require them to report to us? Is it just the once a year kind of at the end of the term, or is it more frequent than that?
They do frequently, and we've had Cheryl and Omar report already once this year. I think they did it in May. They should be coming either in September or October. I haven't talked to them recently since they've been away.
Yeah.
But yeah, they will come back in September, October, and do another. They do it every 3 to 4 months. They come in, and to the Heritage Council as well. So.
Oh, okay, great. So they should be at our September, October board meeting, I'm assuming then, right?
Yeah, depending on what's on the agenda. We usually put them first so that they have the option of staying for the rest of the meeting or not. And then they create the report that comes for March when it goes to council for your annual report.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, one more question. So we're not meeting in September then, we're meeting October next meeting. Looking at the agenda.
There should be a September meeting. You're right. Sorry. I got ahead of myself. I'll change.
So the next meeting is what? September what?
It should be the 4th in September, which would be the 27th.
Okay. And a motion to adjourn. Elise. And I know nobody will object to that. So thanks a lot for everyone attending, and we'll see you soon.
Good. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Good night.